Good morning, everyone. This is John Scarborough. I wanted to talk a little bit today about the poultry that we're raising on the farm. Not everybody here on our channel knows that we raise poultry, and a lot of people don't really know how big of a part of our farm it really is. And so I guess that's partly my fault. I've failed a little bit on that. So what I want to do is just go through a brief overview of today of what we're doing now with our chickens and what we plan to do in the future, what we've learned, a little bit of what we've learned about it, what we like about it, maybe what we would change here and there, but mostly just briefly go through kind of what we're doing with our poultry. So we're going to take y'all out in the pasture today. We're going to show you some of the chicken tractors that we're working with, how we're going with that, some of the styles that we're using. We're experimenting with a couple different styles. We're also going to go to the pond today and we're going to look at the ducks. We're just going to go through a couple different things and a couple different ways of doing things. Today what you're looking at here is actually a Joel Salatin style chicken tractor that I've modified to fit and suit my needs. We've got it flipped over and we are treating it with a substance. The best substance to treat one of these with would actually be used motor oil, but you're not allowed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. So I would never suggest, of course, that you do that. Now, one thing that you could also treat it with is some used vegetable oil or something like that. But obviously, I'm not going to suggest that you do anything like that at all. So, you know, obviously, we've got paint on that. That's what we're obviously going to treat it with. But anyway, so we've got it treated here, and we took care of it. The next step will be to actually cover it up. Now, some of the other ones we have not treated with some stuff. But these are saw-milled lumber. For anybody that hasn't seen the videos on these, this is basically just saw-milled lumber we did. We put oak at the very bottom, and then we put a piece of treated, like we bought some treated lumber to screw to that oak there to mash this wire between. And that, to me, seems to be about the best way we've come up with. It's easy to do, it's easy to handle. You could easily take this off and then your wire would still be good if you wanted to put it onto another one. The downside for me here is the fact that the wire is in contact with the ground, so the bottom of that will begin to rust. So if I built another one, I might actually would build this to where you've got a little bit more room, to where basically you've got a runner, a little bit of wood up here, and you really sandwich that in there, but you can still get this tight. I love that I can get this really good and tight. But this is an 8x8 chicken tractor, and we went with this design, and we went with a couple different things because I was able to take the Joel Salatin style and dramatically make it lighter. My wife can, especially once we really started making these lighter and lighter, my wife can easily drag these around by herself. Some of the first ones we did was a little bit heavier, but she can do this by herself without any, without the Joel Salatin dolly that goes with it, without all of those different things. It's faster, it's easier, and then there are a couple other things we will use sometimes if it's in a bad spot. But that's kind of the style we're using right now. I don't think that it's the absolute best. I don't think that any of the Joel Salatin styles are the best for high production chicken business. I'm talking about high production pastured chicken business, unless you have a good deal of interns, okay? And I'm not the only one who says that. There's quite a few other farmers, regenerative agriculture farmers that actually live near me, and they kind of have the same opinion, and they've used the actual 100% Joel Salatin style chickens, and they've raised, you know, several thousand birds with them. So they've got several different ideas, and we'll go into that later. But my personal opinion is you're not going to do that. It's not the absolute best unless you have a lot of interns, which is not something that everybody has access to. And you should remember that when you're watching some of these big names like Greg Judy and Joel Salatin. But this size chicken tractor, this 8x8, very light build chicken tractor, Joel Salatin style, but lightened up, this sucker right here could easily raise a family's worth of food. You could have even a family, I mean, I'm not even going to say what size family, because honestly you can just adjust it and depending on your batch. I mean, I grew up in a family of 10, and we could have actually still raised a lot of our food with that. But definitely you could feed your family with one of these things by itself, rotating your chickens out, and we'll go through that a little bit more in another video. But that is definitely something you could do and you could consider. So that's for sure. And with that size too, and if you are just on the homestead, I would nearly consider that my modified style over Joel Salatin's larger style. His style was designed around, like I said, it was designed around having interns, and it was also designed around building the largest possible chicken tractor that he could get. But if you're thinking about doing it yourself, just you and your wife, or just one person or whatever, you know, you and your wife, or you and your husband, whoever you're with, you know, or even by yourself, whatever, then one of these smaller tractors might be the thing. We've got a row of 3 tractors. We're just running 3 right now. We'll be getting the 4th one in production. We got this tractor in. You can tell each one's different, and we'll go through each one of them here. This one right here, we actually put a piece of, well, we had an old piece of junk foam. I laid on top, and I just draped the tarp over. It's really hot right now. It's really too hot. We're in July. It's too hot to be raising meat birds, technically. Although you can raise them, the feed conversion is not going to be as good, and they're going to grow a little slower, all like that. So they are growing slower, and it's not as good for our pocketbooks. And it's tough on them too, you know. So I won't be doing that again. That's a story for a different day, why we're doing that. But it wasn't necessarily intentional. But you know, you work with what you got. So we, as a makeshift deal, we kind of put a tarp over one that wasn't finished to help just keep good airflow in there. And then of course the cows came in here, and they thought it was something to play with. We try to keep a hot wire to where they can't get too close to it or something, whatever, you know, and we just messed up, you know. Sometimes you have that on the farm, but you can see they kind of pushed that in, caved it in. But other than that, everything still works. This is one of my favorite water designs, the bucket part. I'll show you the rest of it. But this part right here, I like pretty good. I've showed it on another video. I don't know if you can see that real well, but it's a short stubby faucet that sticks straight out instead of going down 90. We hook it to, like, you can find like an old short washing machine hose, or you can make your own hose, whatever you want, just a short hose. Works really good. You can turn this faucet off. This actually, you can thread this straight inside, and I've got other videos talking about that. But you can thread that straight inside, and it works pretty good. So check my channel out for some other videos on that. And then you can just leave this sitting right here and fill it up with a water hose, or you can pick it up and carry it somewhere else. Whatever really works the best for you. These chicken tractors, I've showed these in other videos, but I'll briefly show you. You know, these doors are designed to where they open. They don't have a hinge. They're not bound down, so you can take the whole door off of there. You can pick it up from any side. I did that in the beginning because I wasn't sure which way I wanted to hinge it. And afterwards, me and my wife have decided that we like it better not having a hinge and not being bound to that. We just like being able to get in from any angle and do whatever we want to do. It's just easier to handle. You can see down in here we have, I don't know if you can see that, it's an adjustable water line that goes all the way across the back of that. You don't need one this long. We did it because we had access to there. Somebody had thrown away a bunch of those nipple lines, drinker lines. And so we had access to it, so we went ahead and got it. But I wouldn't necessarily say you have to have one that big, but I do like the idea of having more nipples than some people have, a longer amount of drinkers than some people, just because you can actually get to it. Let me get down in here and show you also. We've put it on a pulley system. Well, I'm about to lose some chickens here, guys, so bear with me, but we put it on a pulley system here to where we can actually adjust that water line and lower it, raise it up or lower it however we need to. I'm gonna try to get this chicken back in if I can. Go back in, buddy. That way we can bring it up and down as they get bigger and smaller. This chicken tractor right here is the very first one we did. We did this one a little bit different from all of the other ones. This one was done as an experiment partially. partially out of necessity and partially as an experiment. I wanted to take the worst knotty pine, not a naughty pine, it was a knotty pine, had a lot of knots in it, and I wanted to cut it out and then build a chicken tractor, and I wanted to build it all green, okay? And I did all of that because I wanted to see just how well it would go. And I did that for y'all, okay? I did that for the YouTube viewers, okay? I didn't do it for me. Obviously, I wouldn't have done that. But I did it for y'all so that, because there are some people that are, that need to get into this business or whatever. They need to get into it fairly quickly. So I wanted to throw out an option and let y'all see how well the worst situation could work out for you. If you have the worst knotty pine, not so good pines at all, and then you build this thing fresh off the sawmill, so it's fresh green wood. Well, this is the result. This has been around for about 2 years. It's been in production. It's never been treated. We've never had any treatment on it at all. Now, we did take treated wood and go across the tops the same as we did everything else, but we've never treated anything, okay? And now, obviously, the knots are splitting right here, okay? So we had to fasten wood in there to fix that, and that's to be expected, you know. But that was the only split. We've got the most wavy lumber possible on here, and that's why the door don't fit down in there. But everything works, and so the experiment to me was a win, because it was very cheap and easy. It was throw together, but it worked very well. And so the primary things that I did focus on was I still put my oak bottom, okay, and I still put it together in a moderately square fashion, and I still focused on strength, okay. Now, will this one last as long as the other ones? I'm not sure. That's kind of the great test about this. But so far, it's lasting, it's strong, it's good. We are about to go ahead and coat it and go ahead and treat it to make it last for a long time. But for me, I wanted to see if I could get 2 years out of it. You know, being a throw together, very fast, very easy to put together. I think I've definitely succeeded on that, and I could see this lasting definitely longer than this right here. Okay, so let's move on down here. Check this one out. You can see what kind of craziness we've got going on here. This whole strip all the way ahead of here is a bunch of leftover microgreens. They were, well, harvested. They've already been harvested. So we grew the microgreens, we sold the microgreens, and then we harvested the microgreens. And we've thrown the excess dirt. Okay, we use our own soil mix that is not a peat-based mix. We've talked about that in other videos. But because of that, we're able to use this soil to amend our own pastures, but also just to amend gardens or anything, and the chickens can scrape through it, and you get a lot of good out of this. And we've actually raised egg birds on this just for our own eggs. Makes some of the best, most delicious eggs you can possibly get. I'm literally talking the best eggs I've ever had, way better than just a plain pastured egg. I mean, it is top of the line eggs. Just something about getting all of that nutrient, all that green out of there. Okay, so that's what we like to give to our egg birds. These are egg birds that are not in production. These are being raised off. I believe in the industry they call it pullets. You know, but these are for eggs. These are Rhode Island Reds right here, most of them. There's a couple oddballs in there. But these are the Rhode Island Reds. So those other ones back there are your meat birds. We're raising those for meat production. These right here we're raising for egg production, but not for our farm. These we are raising from babies specifically to sell to others as egg birds. This is a decent small cash flow thing. You're not going to make a huge amount of money off of this, but you can make small amounts of cash flow off of this. The best thing is the largest birds that do not sell, okay, now you're able to take those largest birds and you can go ahead and sell them for meat, and they make kind of a different type of meat, but you can still profit from that. If you try to, we have tried to take these and process all of them for meat, and although the actual profit is there, when you put in your hourly rate, it's not worth doing at all. So, you know, it's not really something we do, but selling these for egg birds and then selling off the really big ones as meat birds is a really good option, and it's something you might consider doing on your own farm for yourself. it's worked out pretty good for us. But like I said, it's not like you're not going to make a living off of it. It's just every now and then cash flow. So we don't raise a huge amount of them at a time because it's hit and miss whether or not you'll actually sell them. You may sell them and you may not. But this is one of the other chicken tractors we built, kind of the same style as some of the other ones. Really good chicken tractor. It's a lighter duty chicken tractor, so it's not bad at all. We've still kind of got this same style right here. Water bucket, really like that style. It's pretty dang good. But this one is turning out pretty good. I mean, we built this one more deliberate, we used actual dry lumber that we still cut on the sawmill, but we dried it, we made sure it was dry before we did it. So that's kind of the gist of it. I'm gonna show you one more thing here. I told you we built these things light enough to where we can drag them without any dolly or anything. But we also use this right here. This is a 3/4 inch PVC put onto a 1x4, screwed onto a 1x4. It's actually starting to tear up there. But the gist is if you're kind of on a rough ground, you got a little bit of a hill or an ant mound or something, you can throw that board right there in front of it and just kind of kick it up underneath the front of there, and it'll just slide right across there. So if it ever gets hard, we just do that. Are there times when a dolly would come in handy? Yes. Is it necessary? So far it hasn't been for us. So that's not been a big deal for us. The other thing I have found is I do like to take the mower or brush hog or something and knock some of the grass around in the pasture that's near the area that you're mowing. You can tell I didn't do all of this, and this pasture has actually sprung up quite a few weeds this year. There hasn't been any chickens out in there, but it's sprung up quite a few goat weeds and stuff. There's a lot of grass, but it's sprung up quite a few of those. So I don't like that. It looks kind of ugly, but this used to be a hay field that got sprayed a lot, okay? Now that we're not spraying it, that's kind of what's coming from that, okay? But the point is you want to mow some ways back every now and then. You don't want it to get so grown up near your pastured birds, even though they are protected. You don't want it to get so grown up because you want to leave a buffer zone so that skunks or varmints or anything that might want to try to get in there, they feel more uncomfortable heading out to them. It doesn't feel like a easy place. These chicken tractors are very good for predators. They are very good for raising birds out here on pasture. A lot of people talk about free range, and a lot of people talk about a lot of different things. But I'm gonna tell you something. This right here keeps these birds safe. This right here will make you money, but it will also feed your family. This right here is rock solid and it works very well. Okay, we're keeping our own feed mixture right there. That's kind of our own special mix we've developed. I don't actually give out the exact mix on that, but that works really well. We just kind of keep that close. It is not a full-time, it's not my long-term plan. My long-term plan is actually going to be more like a trailer full of feed, and then another type. We'll have to figure something out better for water to make water easier. Right now we're close enough to the house or to the camper and then the building that we're living in. We're close enough to that right now that we can actually just bring a water hose out here and it's not a big deal. But if we ever start venturing farther out onto the land or anything else, we're definitely going to have to do something. All right guys, let's go look at the ducks. Ducks. All right guys, so this is where we've got the ducks. You see the pond in the background. We've actually got this fenced out. This is still somewhat experimental. Y'all do know that I like to experiment here on the farm. Now I experiment a lot for my viewers, so I really expect y'all to appreciate that and continue to watch my videos, because I'm doing a lot of these experiments really literally just in order to try to teach y'all different things that you can do that a lot of you viewers can do. So as always, I really appreciate everyone who watches my channel, because I don't ever get sponsored. I pretty much sponsor myself. Not that I would turn down a good sponsorship, but I would have to definitely agree with it if I was ever going to do it. But anyway, we've got this poultry netting. We've got 2 of these 164-foot nets that wraps around the whole front of this pond, and then I'll show you kind of where we're at with this. Now I've turned the power off before I come down here. We've actually got this tied right into our actual system, the actual hardwired hot system that goes around the property. But we do sometimes hook this up to a battery. But right now we're training these ducks, so when I'm hooking, anytime I'm training something, I always hook it up to the actual power just to eliminate problems. And usually you get a hotter shock, and that really helps to get them trained very well. I will say, and I did another video on this, this poultry netting will actually hold ducks and chickens without being turned on. So that is really nice. However, when you do it for over 2 weeks like that, they will eventually start to climb into it and really just mash it down. I don't know if it's a huge problem, but the ducks will eventually mash it down until they actually get to this point. So they'll just keep climbing and mashing every day till they get to this point, and then they squeeze through. So that is something. The chickens do seem to work pretty good, but the ones that are really flighty will eventually fly out of it if it's not turned on. Now, some of the really flighty ones, like your black copper marins and things like that, a lot of them is going to fly out unless you clip their wings. That's really the only thing you can do. But you see here what we did. We took this 2x4 panel, and we actually went down into the water. I'm not going to step down in there too much because I don't want to get too close to the snakes. But we actually laid that down in there. Now we can keep goats in here. Now there was one time when it dried up really bad last year, that bad drought we had. It finally dried up to the point the goats were able to go around. But that's pretty rare that it goes past that point. So we put this panel in, and then there's net wire on the other side. And so that keeps anything from just going around. Now, I know what everybody's first thought is. Well, you're raising ducks. The ducks can swim. I know what you're thinking, okay? I'm not completely stupid. I do know that they can swim across that pond and get out. I don't think that this would be a full-time protection for the ducks or a full-time means of keeping them in the pond, okay? This is to see, I want to see how long it would really take them, because we experimented last year on some of this, and what we found was that the ducks just didn't swim across, okay? Now, we know that eventually, if you raise ducks, eventually as they get older and older, they're going to swim all over that whole pond. They're probably going to build nests all the way around that pond and everything. These are young Muscovy ducks, okay? So I actually kind of want to see how long it's going to take them, because the other ducks really didn't. Now, we do have some differences. It is summer right now, okay? So that may, probably will make a difference. I've definitely seen a difference in how much they hang around the pond. We did several videos last time. I want to say it was last winter, maybe it was the winter before, on these ducks. Hey ducks. We did several videos talking about these ducks, talking about their the other ducks that we did, just experimenting different things, and they ended up being in the shop too much and all like that. My hope was that these Muscovy ducks, I've heard that they're less social, so my hope was that these ducks wouldn't come up to the shop, and maybe eventually I could keep a few of them and actually let them free range. Whether or not I'll be able to do that, I don't know, because as you can see, these ducks have just become very tame. I don't know why, but for some reason, most animals just tend to not be skittish around me, and I don't know exactly why that is. I don't even pet these things or anything, but you saw that one. It walked right up to my hand, walked right under there. I mean, these are still somewhat skittish, but they're not that skittish at all compared to what most people would suggest a Muscovy duck being. So I don't know. I'm not don't really know for sure, but what I'm experimenting with here is I want to see just how well I can forage these ducks, because these ducks right here are wonderful foragers. And as I showed a video the other day, they were actually eating the seed heads off of here. It was a YouTube short. They were eating a lot of these seed heads off, which is wonderful because that causes the plant to regerminate and to keep growing. And regerminate is not the word, I meant rejuvenate, and keep on growing where normally it wouldn't. So the leaf will get thicker and fatter. So we're going to see how well they continue to do that, because that's one of the things we love about sheep, is that sheep will actually tenderize the grass and allow them to continue to eat more and more, okay? So I don't know how these ducks are going to go. We're feeding them very seldom at this point, about once a week, just a little bit of feed. And we're just seeing how well they're going to nourish. Obviously, we want to watch them and make sure they don't get thin, because we're not looking for starving animals. But we just want to see how well they're foraging on their own. So I've heard that if these are raised by their own mothers, then they'll actually, they're better hunters. They are better hunters than normal. So anyway, this is kind of what we're doing here on the farm. This is kind of something we've been playing with. I'm really excited about it, but this isn't really a thought of raising for income. Now, there is a little bit of a small thought that I've had, but I think it's still going to be more for my own homestead and for my own production to just feed my family. And that is, I'm hoping that we're going to keep a few of these females and allow them to raise their own young. And we're just going to see how well we could keep a couple of females, obviously we'll need one male, near this pond and see if they'll free range on their own. But that's kind of a long-term experiment. I don't know how it's going to go. We will try to keep y'all posted and updated, so you really have to watch all the videos so you actually know what's going on the farm. But we're going to try to keep you posted on that, because I'm hoping, and like I said, this is kind of a long shot, but I'm hoping that these ducks, because they are kind of an original breed that haven't really been tainted in any way, I'm hoping that they will actually raise some of their own young and be able to basically raise a very good, healthy meat for very little money. And that's kind of my hope with it. And I'm going to see if it'll work. That one right there just took off running down there after a bug. I can definitely see some really good hunting ability out of these things. Like I said, we've only fed these once. This one right here is the most tame one. He'll stay right next to me. He's the one that, see, I mean, he'll jump a little if you come right down to him, but he walked right up to me, just right up underneath my hand, which is kind of impressive to me, considering that they said that these are very, they don't, my understanding is they don't like people as much. But I've also understood, my experience with ducks is no ducks just love being handled by people. They're just not kind of like that. It's kind of like sheep. Like, they'll let you pet them, but they're not necessarily, it's not necessarily their thing. It's not like a dog. They just love to be pet. You know, it's a little bit different. I think a cow actually likes being pet more than a sheep does. But anyway, so we are enjoying this, guys. I really want to keep y'all posted more on this. But you see, they're actually reaching up to the seed. So they're obviously getting some actual food out of that seed. But what's different than a cow is a cow wouldn't eat the seed. They would just eat, they would try to eat down to the bottom of the plant. You know, they're trying to absorb different parts. Not that they wouldn't eat some of the seed, but you get my point. They're specifically harvesting the seed and then moving on. So that is pretty darn cool, guys. I'm really excited about that. But I like having them down here at the pond. I think we'll have to make them a little house down in here sometime. That little floating house we tried to make before, there was reasons it didn't work out, but we're not going to go into that right now. But I would love it if I could eventually get them to where I didn't have to net them in the pond. The reason for the net now is more protection for them than it is to keep them from getting out. Because one of the things about the pasture is a lot of times where the predators will actually come in from. They'll actually come in from there and then head down to this pond. So that's kind of the mentality of that. Like I said, we've actually done this successfully with several other types of animals, and we've done it successfully with ducks, but only for short term. So I'm not actually sure how long I'm planning to keep these ducks out here. I don't really know for sure. It's hard to say. We're just going to kind of try it. Obviously, if they start getting out, then we know that we can't keep them in there anymore. So we're going to play with it. I just want to know how long, because part of my thought is in keeping them behind there is we actually do want to raise some Pekin ducks for our own, for resale, okay? Because of that whole farm versus homestead deal, you know. And I still like, even if I'm trying to make income off of it, I want to make it as regenerative as possible. and I want it to be a natural process as possible. And even though I can raise ducks in a chicken tractor and still get them out here on pasture and still get them foraging, and I still think it's pretty darn good and way better than a lot of the other farming practices, okay, I still think that ducks are waterfowl, and they are meant to be on water, and they do better any time that you can put an animal as close to what it was made to do. The stress of the animal is going to be lower. And I have had repeated customers, so many customers, tell me that they can tell a difference in our meat, a huge difference. And I really believe, even compared to other grass-fed growers, other grass-fed beef producers, other chicken growers, everything, even compared to that, they're comparing us to other people. And I think that the missing component is the lack of stress. So I really believe that putting that animal in as close to its natural environment as possible, while still, you have to be able to afford to do it. You got to remember, if you can't afford to do it, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be sustainable, and it's definitely not going to be regenerative, okay? So you got to be able to afford to do it. That's number one, okay? Number two, hopefully, if it's for yourself, you're saving some money, you know, so you kind of have to play with these different processes. The point is that I'm really hoping that I can raise Pekin ducks in this system, fenced off exactly this way, because they're going to be, their duration of being raised is going to be a lot faster. They're going to get, and for them, we'll feed them every day. We'll feed them just like any other, just like anything else that we would actually grow. We're really going to, you know, give them free choice feed while also giving them all the grass and all the bugs and all the forage that they can handle. That's something I'm considering doing in this open style. I have also considered raising some chickens this way and stuff, because the chickens wouldn't be able to get across the pond, but I'm not convinced that that's what I'm going to do yet. Just depends. Whatever the case may be, I'm going to use these ducks. These ducks are following me. I'm going to use these ducks as my experimental ducks to see, and because they are more foragers, they are more protective. And I'll also tell you this, these ducks actually have a better defensive mechanism. Their claws are sharp as heck compared to other ducks. These things right here, be careful the way you pick them up. You actually need to pick them up different from other ducks. You've got to actually pick them up by their wings, because those ducks right there will cut you with their claws, okay? So they're going to be better at protecting themselves as well. So the other really awesome thing that I forgot to mention about Muscovy ducks that I've read and I am observing is that despite the heat, they've still spent marginal time in the water. Now, they enjoy the water. They get in and out of the water, but they don't seem to be as active in the water as a lot of other ducks that I've noticed in the dead of summer. Okay, so that's pretty nice. Now, but that's also what I've read as well. It's not just my own observation. Now, you can kind of study that for yourself, but apparently they're not as messy, and they don't need water as much as some of the other duck breeds. If you don't know anything about Muscovy ducks are actually the only duck breed that isn't related to the mallard duck, from my understanding. Now, all other duck breeds are descendants of the mallard duck, apparently. Now, the Muscovy duck is really cool because they seem to me to have some characteristics of a lot of other animals. Obviously, they have characteristics of ducks, but to me, they also have some good characteristics of geese, because they seem to be pretty good grazers. They also seem to be very good, have some characteristics of even turkeys, some characteristics of chickens. Like, they just seem to have a lot of the attributes, maybe even the best attributes of all of the different, not all of the different, but many of the different domestic and farm poultry. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. That's my own observation. That's not something I've read. But the point is that if they don't spend as much time in the water, it is possible that even during their longer span of being raised up for meat, it's possible maybe they won't bridge across the pond. But like I said, my biggest thought with the Muscovy ducks is possibly having the mothers to raise their own young without the need of a net. Because I did some interesting research. I thought it was really fascinating, really. And that was that Muscovy ducks, specifically, you see them going after all of them bugs that I just exposed. Muscovy ducks specifically are very good about if they are raised by their own mother. So they actually did a study. This is a very interesting study. They did a study on a group of Muscovy ducks that were raised by mothers versus Muscovy ducks that were raised in a traditional brooding manner. Okay, and they raised these ducks, and what they found was the ducks that were raised by their own mothers were not just a little bit better foragers, but they were significantly better foragers. So really, long story short about these Muscovy ducks is there's just so many good attributes that I've seen with these ducks. So we've got a lot of high hopes with that. But like I said, I also do want to try raising some Pekin ducks in this fashion right here. I really do want to try that because the Pekin ducks, any duck really, they have access, having access to that water and to that shade is going to give them an advantage over any other type of poultry that we would raise in a chicken tractor. Because other poultry being raised in a chicken tractor in this time of year in July, even though we are raising some chickens, can be really hot and can be really hard on them. So I'm actually thinking that we may try to, we're going to try to be off during the summertime, maybe quit raising chickens about June, mid-June, maybe early June, and during that time pick up raising ducks all the way through the summertime, because they have access to shade and water if I can raise them in this fashion. So that's kind of where I'm at with the poultry thing. We are liking the poultry. It does give us another form of cash flow. It is obviously a different animal than a cow, and it has to be treated differently, and there are a lot of downsides to it. We have had some, we just recently lost a bunch of birds all at one time. They seemed to come down with something, and I still haven't figured out what it was, and we lost a whole bunch of them. But I'm gonna tell you the best part, okay? And that sounds bad because it was obviously a bad thing. We lost an entire tractor full of birds. But here's what's the best part. Whatever they got, because it was in a tractor that could only have 40 birds, none of the other tractors were affected by it, okay? That's what I like about having them, those chickens separated like that. Okay, so that's another point. But the point that I'm really trying to get at is I really think that there are some opportunities in raising poultry, but especially for people trying to raise food for themselves. But I'm gonna tell you, I would definitely consider the Muscovy duck for raising food over any other duck if you're just doing it for a homestead or for yourself. So guys, I'm gonna wrap this video up. It's been a pretty long video. I do hope that it has been helpful. I've tried to make it moderately enjoyable, but mostly educational. I am trying to get better at my editing and all like that. But the main thing I've always focused on is just trying to put out good, solid information. Okay, that's the main purpose of this channel. Now, me and my wife have considered doing more homesteading type videos, just vlog type videos. And we may make another channel for it, or we may put it on this channel. So I'd love to see y'all's input if y'all think y'all would be interested in that. And then do you think I should put it on this channel, or do you think we should make another channel for it? Put your comments down below and let me know. But as always, guys, don't forget, please like, subscribe, and if you can find a way to share this on like your Facebook page or something, and share these things to homesteading groups on Facebook pages and things, man, I tell you what, that would help my channel significantly, because I put out a lot of work on this and I really don't get a lot of return. Guys, I really appreciate it.